United States welcomes the agreement reached between the Republic of Korea and the DPRK earlier today. We support President Park's tireless efforts to improve inter-Korean relations, which support peace and stability on the Korean Peninsula.
If there is one leader anywhere in the world that is the first one people would think of when it comes to being a complete madman and pushing the nuclear button in a moment of pique or because his dry cleaning didn't turn out right, it would be Kim Jong-un, no doubt. And recent transgressions between North and South Korea had media outlets around the world falling back on that phrase, again, on the brink of war. But let's take a breath and get a grip. What are the real possibilities that this diminutive leader would have the stones to do something so mad? And do we just need to reconcile ourselves to the fact that we will be living with this threat until the day someone takes him out? Welcome back. Journalist in residence at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies, who broke the full story of North Korean labor camps in the Russian Far East back in 1994, Claudia Rosett joins us. Claudia, thank you so much for being here. And I wish one of these days that we'd get together and actually talk about a peace that would last. But I don't think that's ever going to happen in our lifetimes. So do we need, first of all, to just reconcile ourselves to the fact that as long as Kim Jong-un is in power or someone from his faction, that we will see aggression, agreement, and we simply are going to have to get used to the ping pong ball for maybe a few more decades?
Actually, it's going to take something more than that. We can't really afford to just reconcile ourselves to this because they're making nuclear weapons. And at some point in this brinksmanship, somebody's going to miscalculate. But this is a long game. You're quite right. Until Kim Jong-un or that dynasty is gone, until that regime is gone, this is going to continue. It is getting more dangerous. But this latest round it underlines something that is important to notice, and that is South Korea responded in ways that North Korea really didn't like, and North Korea did back off.
Well, you mentioned, of course, I think we're talking the speakers, the sound, a lot of what is the old psychological warfare. But why is that really anything to be concerned about or to discuss? Because they've actually done that before, I believe, back in the 60s and 70s. So is this just restarting something that they've used before?
Yeah, this was important because what you actually see with the loudspeakers were the thing that North Korea really didn't like. And the loudspeakers, sort of like the movie that made all those headlines with the hacking, a Sony hack in December, the interview, the loudspeakers were broadcasting insults of Kim Jong-un across the DMZ into North Korea. And for the North Korean system, which is this system of monolithic supreme leadership with Kim Jong-un at the top, that's something they just can't tolerate. It actually tells you it's a very brutal system. And that's where North Korea said, okay, we'll deal. The South Korea also returned fire. When the North Koreans fired at the loudspeakers, South Korea fired back. So you did have an interesting sort of series of back and forth here. And it is interesting to see North Korea become particularly riled over insults to this horrible totalitarian supreme leader. But, yeah, go ahead.
You used the word miscalculate earlier, and I know that we always start these conversations by saying that Kim Jong-un or one of his people are the ones more likely to start this. But let me back up a minute. Is it fair to say that that miscalculation could come from the South just as easily?
Well, actually, I think it's more likely to come from the North, and in the following sense, because the North keeps probing. That's what you just saw. They started this. They started this by planting landmines that very horribly blew the legs off 2 South Korean soldiers. And North Korea put them in a place where they knew that would happen. And they probe, they test, and when they don't get a strong response, they keep pushing. There's a very opportunistic regime. And if the message is that they get back is that we won't actually do something, you may well get them proceeding to the point where finally the U.S. and South Korea have to act. That's how you get a war. In other words, the danger is too much retreat, too much timidity on the U.S. and South Korean side. We didn't see that in this case, but that it has been a problem more broadly with U.S. policy under President Obama. And that is the invitation to much worse things.
I got about 45 seconds left. Your article in Forbes entitled The Iran-North Korea Axis of Atomic Weapons. Why don't we hear more about this?
Because the administration refuses to confirm what seems highly likely, that North Korea and Iran have been working together on nuclear weapons. In fact, I have to wonder and worry, is North Korea now, with this latest probe that we just saw, looking for a chance to get its own piece of this very sweet deal that President Obama is offering Iran, in which basically they get to have nuclear weapons. The two have worked together, according to many press reports, including to a report by a former prize-winning journalist who now works at the State Department as the head of the Bureau of Public Affairs, Douglas France, a good journalist, who reported back in 2003 North Korea and Iran were building warheads together in Iran. Major worry.
I'm out of time, but I want to remind people the article is called The Iran-North Korea Axis of Atomic Weapons ? It's on Forbes.com. Search it out and read it. It is fascinating. Claudia Rosett, thank you so much for joining us. Stay with us. Ted Cruz is next.